Hey, Julian, Franklin here. I wanted today to talk to you about a show I wrote called The Wild West Reading Show. I wrote the show back in 2002. In fact, it was the very first show that I wrote for our company. And it's an interesting show because it talks about Texas history. And like all of my shows, it incorporates reading in books. So what happens is it's a story, a play, if you will. In other words, it's got a beginning and a middle and an end, and it goes through continuously, as opposed to maybe a series of disconnected stories where you can take some in and take some out, if that makes sense, or the way a lot of presenters do. A magic show, for example, might consist of 12 different magic tricks, and you could remove one and add in a different one. This, on the other hand, is more like a play where there are several different acts that all string together. And in the course of the play, there is a bunny rabbit, a puppet, who is inadvertently sent back in time, back to 1845, which is the year Texas became a state. And then we have to figure out how to get him back to modern day times. Now, in order to do that, we're going to have to use lots of resources from the Library Media Center. For example, we're going to have to learn about time machines. So we talk about science fiction. We talk about fantasy. We talk about the difference between fiction and nonfiction. We talk about several different genres, including history, historical fiction. We talk about the idea of a series of books. For example, in the Magic Tree House, characters frequently go back in time. So we talk about, there's also a series by John Sheska called the Time Warp Trio, and so we talk about this. So we talk about what is a series, what does that mean? And so we'll address those sorts of things and have, through lots of course, audience participation, the kids will offer up their favorite series. But anyway, after quite some time and lots of mayhem and hilariousness and puppets and jokes and whatnot, ultimately, the rabbit reappears at the end. Now, through the course of this, the kids are going to be introduced to all sorts of significant historical facts. For example, they'll be presented with the story of the Alamo in story format. So it's not this facts to be memorized. It's not dates, but rather it's this engaging story about what actually happened at the Alamo and how those people felt. And so we're sort of feeling those same experiences about what it must have been like to be surrounded with 10 times the enemies and they're facing it. And so anyway, we address all of that. And so the kids will leave. We'll be talking about historical figures like Sam Houston, Stephen F. Austin, the father of Texas. We'll be talking about Jean Lafitte, a notorious pirate that lived right off the coast of Texas and raided the waters of the Gulf Coast. And so the kids will leave with all this sorts of knowledge. But primarily what they're going to leave with, what they hopefully leave with at the end of all of my shows, is this desire to continue that learning through self-directed process. So in other words, what we want them to do is to leave excited about the resources that are available at the Library Media Center so that they can read more about real-life pirates and real-life buried treasure that they might uncover, that they can learn more about secret codes, that they can learn more about magic tricks, that they can learn more about the animals that we've been talking about, that they can learn more about these historical figures, that they can check out some new series and sort of expand what they're currently reading. That's the goal of this show. Well, that's the goal of all of my shows, but this show has a nice little Wild West cowboy sort of theme. It's also great for pirates because we do address the whole Jean Lafitte idea. Anyway, the Wild West Reading Show. Fantastic program for your students.